Hey, welcome to another episode of DyeStat Discussions. I'm here with world indoor champion and American indoor record holder Josh Hoey. Josh, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Excellent. Looking forward to USA's next week. What's the mindset right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of putting the finishing touches on our training. I just finished the lactate run and we'll be on the track one more time, and then it's kind of just tapering in. So, yeah, getting ready to travel. Just feeling good with nutrition and yeah, getting excited just to go all in.
I mean, you are certainly on the 800 stage, at least in America. It's you, Bryce Hopp, and a few others, but you're really looking like the man to beat right now. Let's talk about your 142.01 performance there a couple weeks ago. Like, what did that performance show you?
Yeah, I mean, I I was excited to be able to run kind of the fastest I did in the 800 at the end of that block in Europe. There was a lot of experience we got just with the travel and managing the ups and downs of the races. So just to kind of get stronger over that trip, I think was good. But for us, it was like, okay, like it was a good kind of starting point to launch us into competition and championship season. So yeah, I mean, didn't really think too long about it, but we got back pretty smoothly and kind of ramped up training again.
Was it at all agonizing to run 142.01?
Yeah,
Just
it definitely was, especially after doing 143.00 in Paris too, where I was just right on the cusp both those times. But yeah, I mean, our goals are definitely to run a good bit faster than that. So um, yeah, I mean, it was a tough race. Like, didn't exactly get a free run, and I think if conditions are good, we'll be able to put that behind us.
Mhm. Yeah, and your coach Rinaldi, he's said in the past he thinks you're capable of running 141 right now. And as you said, if the conditions are right, do you feel like that is something that could happen at USA's?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to take anything for granted, and I don't like talking about times like before they happen. But yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think I peaked at that Monaco race. So uh, we keep pushing.
What have been the biggest advantages under Coach Rinaldi? What have been the most helpful things with his approach in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think the reason that I saw so much success with Justin on the front side of when we first started working together is because he was very collaborative. Um, like he was able to kind of digest a lot of the training that I was doing going into that relationship and kind of apply that to his own training system. And then we really worked together on with my dad's help as well, kind of adding in the lactate runs and just kind of like working around the rest and interval times and yeah, and it it's really been a been a great relationship with Justin. Like I think very highly of him as a person as well. So yeah.
Does that collaboration get tricky at all with him all the way across the other side of the world in
Yeah.
Australia?
Um Sometimes I think that he trusts me to make changes to the workouts if based on how I'm feeling, which I'll do. Like sometimes we'll have the philosophy of like adding rest to make sure that our we hit the tempo or the pace that we're trying to hit or things of that nature. Like even adding reps if I feel like I can. But yeah, but Justin and I have met in person many times. He came to Flagstaff this past spring. He brought Mark English and Tony Van Deepen as well, and we had a training block as a team. And he actually traveled to Europe and went to all the races with us. So yeah, I feel like Justin and I understand each other really well.
Will he be in Eugene with you?
No, no, but I'll probably head back to Europe after uh, the U.S. champs, depending on how it goes. So the plan is hopefully for him to meet us back there.
Has he given you any advice? Heading into the meet yet? What does he want to see from you?
Um, Not so much. I think we pretty much had a conversation last year, early spring, where we decided that we weren't going to talk about race tactics anymore. So Yeah, he pretty much, as I was saying, I think he trusts me with understanding the like how I'm feeling and kind of just running with what I got. So
That's really it's really interesting that you mentioned that, not discussing race tactics, because now that you've made such a huge jump, I mean 5 seconds in 2 years, you're clearly on the top level. And I feel like one of the biggest differences you can make now is learning how to be, a really, really solid racer, especially now that you're racing against the top guys like Wanyoni, Arup. Like how do you if you're not talking tactics with your coach, how do you manage those high profile races, especially in the 800 where things get really tactical?
yeah, I would say I kind of like to draw upon my workouts and kind of see where I feel like I have a competitive advantage against some of the people that I'm racing against. Like I do a lot of threshold work and run at 1500 pace so that I can also compete at the 1500, and like I kind of try to make that a point of competitive advantage for us. So yeah, I try and race according to how we train and just try to like feel out the race as it goes. I mean, I have been competing professionally for uh, a lot of years now, so it's like I try to also draw on that experience.
What have been the biggest lessons that you've learned from, your new experience racing on the highest stages like World Indoors, Diamond League, those kind of races?
Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest thing is like you just can't hesitate. Like moves happen so quickly, and um, you can react late, or you can't if you're going to make a move, like it has to be decisive. Like you really only get a couple chances, and so I think you really have to try and focus, like and kind of dwell on that, like going into the race, and for me that helps me perform. Like it's kind of like a motivation. But yeah,
Do you remember any specific races where you really learned that, where you learned like how quickly those moves are made?
yeah, I would say um, as I was like kind of racing through the indoor season, like I I just remember when I was doing the 1,000 indoors. And I know like that was pretty much just a time trial, but like I was racing behind my younger brother Jonah, and he was kind of pacing me through, and I was like thinking, oh, this pace is probably like a little hot for me. Like I'm I'm gonna like try and wait off him and like kick at the end. But like I heard 148 through the 800 when we were supposed to go through like 146, 147, and immediately like I realized like oh I've given it up. So like I like was able to kick and kind of save the race, but I just took that experience into the 800 at like Milrose that I did, where I'm like, okay, if I'm even late off a second, like there's going to be guys like coming up right behind me. So like I would say that like our training, we try to practice or train how we race and kind of race how we train. So I'd say like that has given me like confidence to race boldly and like to like either run at the front if I have to, or like to not hesitate when I feel like there's moves or positions that I need to be in. And that's why I always tell people like run with confidence is a huge motto of mine, because like I'm trying to inspire that same attitude and race presence in others as well.
Tell me a little more about that thousand you mentioned. You're talking about the one at the beginning of the season where you broke the American record.
Yeah, like I had been training in Flagstaff for the past couple of months. We arrived basically middle September and was there through January, and so um, we were hoping to try and open up. And I had been doing a lot more volume in my training, like basically trying to build enough of a base to run the 1500 consistently. Like because I'd run 338 really early in the season. I ran 348 at the Fifth Avenue Mile, which is probably like a 352 or uh, like translated, but it was like trying to make that next jump, like to be like competitive with the people in the US and even internationally competitive. So it's like we were trying to like find a way to uh, pair a lot of the 800 work that we were doing and then like adding the volume. And so just doing 1,000 seemed to be a good way to test fitness. And there are even other groups in Flagstaff that'll do like 1,000 in training to simulate fitness. So for me, I was like, I'd rather just have it timed and have it count. So I went home because we were already planning on spending that indoor season in Philadelphia, like in the Philly area, and yeah, so it was almost a home meet for me. Like we just kind of drove up the day of, and it was supposed to be just kind of a low key thing. So yeah, it was pretty exciting when we got the time. I definitely think that that's like what we were going for, but yeah.
I mean, you definitely like you kicked off 2025 with a bang there. Like you said, you wanted to make it count, and it definitely counted. I mean, how did it feel to start off 2025 with a 214 in the thousand, like a really really stellar performance?
Yeah, I would say like we try not to dwell on it too much because it's like there's just so many races in the season, and like for us um like each race is just another big challenge. So I think like there will be a time where we can kind of look back and appreciate this year and like each of the smaller successes and the steps along the way. But like for us, like we're really laser focused on just trying to move forward and like just to keep up the intensity to stay at this level.
You know, of the last kind of 2 years, year and a half, where you really started to, you know, make this name for yourself, what do you think was the biggest moment where you were like, wow, like this is real? Like, what do you think was the biggest jump that you had, you know, in one race?
Yeah, I I definitely think it was the first race I did indoors after converting to Coach Justin because I ran at the Clemson Indoor Invitational in January of 2024, and I ran 218, I think 218 like six in the thousand, and that was already like close to a personal best, and it was our first race of the season, and like that was really exciting for me. But I was entered in the 800 the next day as well, and that's what Justin suggested. So for me, it was like being able to do two races back to back was something that I had really kind of struggled with in the coaching setups that I had been in beforehand. So I remember showing up the next day on Saturday and being like, I got it's a miracle. Like if I make it through this 800, but um, yeah, my Jonah ended up pacing me there as well. So, um, and I ran like 147 six or 147.4, which was also close to my indoor best. And that to me was the realization of like, wow, like this is actually working. Like the training that we're doing is like translating to results, which is like shockingly can be hard to come by. So, um, yeah, that's when I'd say like I really started to like to have hope and believe in the system, and we kind of just continued to go from there.
Do you remember at all like how you were feeling before that race? Because I mean, I read all about, you know, how reluctant you were to even find a new coach. You know how close you were to just, you know, being on the brink of the end of your career at some points. You know, how remember how you were feeling of like before that race at all?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I still am a competitor, so like going into the race, like I was not super optimistic. Like if I'm honest, like I was just thinking like, man, I gotta I gotta go out and try and make something out of nothing, like um for as many times as I can remember. So like I was going in just a little bit downcast, but um like I'm able to segment that in my mind, like just kind of like push that away and just like focus on like executing like um race rhythm, like going through my effort zones as like I like to think of it, and really just trying to like make the most like of that race. And so like when I kind of went through that and I crossed the line and I saw 218, I'm like, oh wow, like that's like this is improvement, this is real, like this is something that we can work with, and like and that just kind of continued to excite me. So like kind of going in the next day, like where I was like, man, my legs are tired, but I can still run 147 mid. It's like, yeah, this um like I'm bought in. Like I'm ready to kind of uh, that's kind of when I realized like, yeah, this is gonna work.
Yeah, and you mentioned like another huge thing you mentioned there is like the running through rounds. Like that is definitely something that it wasn't your strong suit in the past, but now, like you said, you've gotten better at it, and I think it's going to be something that's really crucial. Obviously, next weekend, as you're running 3 rounds, how strong do you think you are now at being able to run like several rounds?
Yeah, um it's gonna be exciting and competitive. I this is the fastest the U.S. championships have been. Like it's the deepest field, so I think the rounds are going to reflect that. So yeah, I definitely think like I'll be able to um, run through the rounds, but I'm expecting it to be tough, like to be competitive. Yeah.
It absolutely will. Like you said, this is a crazy fast field, and I think if you would ask people a couple years ago who would be in this field in 2025, two names: Josh Hoey, Donovan Brazier. I don't know if people would have put you guys in there, but now you guys are like the Donovan Brazier comeback. You're a top name now. Like how exciting is it to be amongst a field of really really stacked 800 runners?
I think it's really exciting. Like it just I think makes it all the more intense. Like it makes it so that you really can't um let up or take anything for granted, like I keep saying, because you see the field's just getting stronger. And um there was uh for my younger brother's birthday, and this is I just tell this story because it's been a saying that has influenced us a lot. This was like 3 years ago. He's a uh, he loves cooking, and so he kind of has aspirations to be a chef eventually. And so for his birthday, we went to a Michelin star restaurant, um, and yeah, and the cook was actually like one of the chefs was nice enough to let us into the kitchen after the dinner, and Jonah said to him, was like, "Oh, are you going for another Michelin star?" And the guy's like, of course, we're trying to go for another star, because the second that you don't try to get the next star is the when you lose the one you have." And so, like, I just kind of feel like that applies to the current state of running in the U.S. as well. Like the second that you're not trying to be internationally competitive, or that you're not trying to like go into these races like with a winning mindset, is when you kind of give way to the next person. So like, yeah, I think we continue to have that mindset. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. Like that's super necessary. Like you said, you need to have that mindset because, like, especially like we said, like how deep the U.S. 800-meter field is this year and how deep it's gotten. What? Like, if you had to guess, like, why do you think American 800-meter running has exploded, and even world, 800-meter running has exploded these last couple years to the level that it is now?
Yeah, I really think that there's been a changing of the training dynamics, or what people believe is important for the 800. So I think that um, a lot of the training has become more aerobic. So I think that lactic threshold training is a really efficient way to build an aerobic base. And I think that people adding that in, and also going through altitude as well to try and like boost your aerobic capabilities has been a huge factor for like recent improvement. So like I think that pretty much everyone at the top circuit now can run at least 330, or and like ideally maybe like 328. So like in the 15, and I think that has been a huge change. I don't really think that we've seen such a like strong caliber field that way, but um, yeah, and I also think that there's just the pressure of competing at this level as well.
Yeah, and like you said, and like all those guys can run 330 now, and you proved that. You ran 329 a little while back. What did that performance show you?
Yeah, I mean, that was. I think we were very optimistic, or really happy with that performance, because like for me that was like my third race in like 8 days, and it was just like it was kind of a lot. And so it was a little bit of a stretch to try and fit in that 1500. And I remember like going up to the start line, like, man, I'm walking into a buzzsaw right now. But yeah, I mean, I was able to hold on. So yeah, I mean, I was really happy with that. Like, I think it showed us that like a lot of our like strength training has paid off, and we're just trying to kind of translate that into better times for the 8 now.
What do you think is the longest event you would try? Like, would you do a 3K indoors or maybe even a 5K at some point?
Yeah, I definitely think I can run the 3K. I I actually paced the 3K for the uh, the Tar Heel guys like back in December, going 2K like 5:04 after running 3:52, like an hour and a half earlier. So like I definitely think like I can run like sub 7:30, but like I don't really think like that would tell me anything. Like for us, it's like we're really trying to like continue to push the boundaries like in these middle distance events, and at this time I just don't think like running like high 720s is going to like have the same effect or be as competitive as like putting more of that focus in. So um yeah, I think it's kind of nice to like to do training that kind of makes it like that predicts like that you can run a 3K, but ultimately like I think there's just not enough energy like in a training week to put too much towards the 3K in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I can definitely see that. And on the subject of pushing boundaries, this is something that some I have to ask, something everyone wants to know about. Like, in from your perspective, is 140.91 on borrowed time? How likely it is? Do you think it's going to go down soon?
I I definitely think like it's on borrowed time, just like to use that phrase. And I said this earlier, like I genuinely think like that over the next 5 years, even like people will start to shoot towards like sub 140. I do think that's humanly possible. I think that there's a chance that it happens in the next like 5 years or so. So whether the current world record happens this year, it's hard for me to say. Like when you look at the top guys like Wanyoni, he's pretty much set a PB every year for the last um, like 4 years, and probably before that. But like, so you kind of look at his 141.1 and think like, hey, if he even PBs a little bit, like he's right there. I mean, he's already run 141.4. That was faster than he ran at this point last year, and so it's like, yeah, it's close. But I also think that that he's not the shoe-in favorite like to win world champs this year. So I think that there are other people that if they peak just right, like can compete at that level. So I think there are multiple people that I'm not saying will break the world record, but like in perfect conditions might be there.
Yeah, and like you said, peaking is really important this year with world champs in September. I mean, super long season, and I mean you've been going at it for a while. Like, how are you managing to stay fresh this deep into the season?
Yeah, there's a lot of ups and downs, I would say, for us. Like we just try and manage the ebbs and flows of the training. So like for me, it was not too bad being in Europe because like you're just kind of like managing between races. So I think that was a really good experience, and I came back like feeling ready to train. So um, yeah, I would say like I'm not a huge believer in like traditional um, like thoughts of like taking weeks off like in at a time in the fall, like so that you can manage your way through the season or things like that. Like we just try and like um uh see what we have in training each day. So yeah.
Tell me more. Does Josh Hoey take any time off? Like, we're like,
Yeah, like I've taken days off before, but I don't really believe in like taking weeks off at a time, and I'm not even sure that that's like good for the body anyways. Like I don't think that's really the ideal way to train. So like um yeah.
when do you think is the last time that you took like a week of no running?
Um it's definitely been a good amount of time. Like, yeah,
I mean,
like
like,
probably 2.5 years.
wow, I mean, that's shocking to think about. I think that, like, what you pointed out there, that, like, it definitely goes against, I think, a lot of the conventional wisdom of the running world. Like, how has that always been, part of your training? Like, was there a time where you used to take, like, the normal, like, 2 weeks off after a season, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I've definitely been with coaches that have like suggested for me to take weeks off, and I personally don't think that is good for probably my mental health, anyways. I never feel like better afterwards. So like I think if you can have steady builds, you don't really need to take big time off. So it's like you can kind of like continue to just make marginal gains and such. But that's what we believe in.
I mean, how do you manage that? I might have asked this a little differently before. Like, how, like, without taking, substantial time off, how do you manage that freshness? Like, how do you keep yourself from getting burnt out?
Yeah, for me, not well at times. If I'm honest, like so like there are definitely times where I'll kind of run myself into adrenal fatigue, or like times where like I'm just not seeing good threshold numbers, or like I'm struggling to make it through workouts that I feel like I should be able to. And I think that like part of my relationship with Justin and my dad is like Justin was really willing to kind of cooperate like with our um, training mentality and our beliefs in training, and so he was actually able to kind of start to advise and like work into his training system like the way that I kind of want to train. And so like him kind of specializing that program for me um, was tremendously helpful. And like we also have Peter Bowl. Now we have Mark English and Tony Van Diepen, and so he actually kind of like picks apart and gives each person like sort of a specialized uh, training schedule. And so like that, like I genuinely think that that makes Justin one of, if not the best middle distance coach in the world, because of how he's able to write a specialized schedule for um, multiple people at like the top 30, top 20 in the world level. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that Justin's ability to kind of help me manage my own philosophy about that, like, and then him, um, like writing the workouts and doing the programming was hugely helpful and successful.
Yeah, yeah, and I read that, he quit his full time job to become a full time coach and just really go all in. Like, one of the things that he said was, if you're going to be going all in, if you're going to be, one of the best athletes in the world, then he's going to go all in on training you. How much of a difference has that made? Having him, be accessible, around the clock.
Yeah, um, it's been really nice. I think that the biggest change is the fact that he was able to come to Flagstaff and to come spend time with us in Europe as well, and kind of be away for that time. Like, because even while he was working, I never like questioned his commitment, and he never made himself not accessible. So um, yeah, I think that his kind of passion and expertise like just kind of speaks for itself. But him being able to kind of come and travel with us has also been really nice.
Tell me a little bit about, the altitude training in Flagstaff, because you hadn't done much altitude at all, like, or I think only one stint ever, before, starting to train in Flagstaff. How has that adjustment been for you?
Yeah, I was and I'm naturally skeptical just because I've like been in the sport for a really long time, and I feel like I've taken advice that didn't really work for me a lot. And so like um there were some people that were like, hey, like you shouldn't spend more than like 4 to 8 weeks at a time at altitude, or like, hey, like you shouldn't be doing this kind of work. And for me, I'm just like um I'm gonna run and see what happens. So I just kind of like basically did what I was doing through the summer, and just like did that at altitude and just started adding volume. And it worked for about 8 weeks, and then like I like crashed, and I took a blood test and I was super low on iron. So there was definitely something to the advice that I was getting. But otherwise, like I was able to bounce back from that relatively quickly. I spent a week not at altitude, took an iron supplement, and came back and was pretty much feeling myself. So, but I also think that yeah, I was able to benefit even from those 8 weeks. Like even though I had a time where I was like struggling for a bit after that, like I still gained fitness like during that time. And it really was just kind of an iron thing. So um yeah, like that it was a tough couple of months, but I feel like it was really beneficial. And I think that as the sport continues to grow and develop, like you'll see almost like everyone like almost having to go to altitude to be able to kind of compete through these like fall segments. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everyone is going to altitude, and not just used to, like, now Flagstaff is kind of the new Boulder. Like people are realizing 7,000 feet is more effective than 5,500 feet. But like you said, it is a really major adjustment. It's especially coming from sea level. I mean, what was like tell me about those 8 weeks, like how like you said, it was an iron thing, but what's it like just acclimating to that for a newly altitude runner?
Um, it it can just you can just be dealing with a lot of fatigue, like pretty much all the time, and it kind of makes it so like your life just becomes it just can feel like running and nothing else. Like because you go like you train, it can feel like a tough session. You come back and you're just tired. You don't really want to do anything except just like lay around and try and recover, and then like you go back out the evening most days, like and just kind of repeat the cycle. So like sometimes Flagstaff can definitely feel like Groundhog Day, but yeah, like for us, like it's helpful to try and break that up with like a early winter race, like just like an indoor. And for us, that was that mile and that base work like that I mentioned earlier, early December. So like that was good just to try and break up the training blocks. But yeah, that's also why I feel like um like I'm not afraid to race throughout the season, because like for us it sometimes it's good just to check up on the training and break up the training. But yeah.
Break up some of the monotony. I definitely feel that's, what was like you said, a day at Flagstaff, a day in Flagstaff can feel like Groundhog Day. Good analogy for a Pennsylvanian.
Yeah.
What is what is a day? What does that day look like? If you got two sessions, what else are you doing? What does a day like that look like?
Yeah, I mean, getting into a TV show or video games or walking around, trying out the different food or brunch places in Flag, and keeping busy. I would say trying to read a book or things. But yeah, I mean, it's very low key, I would say, like because your focus really is just to try and recover, and get and for me, like I just track the sessions as well, because like if I don't feel like the training I'm doing is working, it makes it really hard to like be antsy, like and to recover in between, because you're like I just start to like worry or get obsessive. So but yeah.
Are you deep into like the analytics?
I wouldn't say like I'm super deep into the analytics, but I'm very deep into my own analytics. Meaning like I track the training. I like basically project what I think is possible, things like that. But I'm not deep into the science of like I don't know a lot of the technical terms and things like that.
Like when you're looking at your sessions, looking back at what you've done, what are some of the variables that you're looking at? Like heart rate, pace. What kind of things are you looking at to tell you where you're at?
Yeah. An easy one to track is threshold at certain paces. So we do a lot of blood pricking for that reason. Um, we have a lot of sessions that we kind of go back to. So comparing those sessions, like um, rep to rest, um, like for a certain amount in a session, like we feel like is a really good indicator of like where you are in a race. Like for example, like 10 to 12 by 200 off a minute. Like if you can hold that at your 800 pace, you can pretty much take the average and estimate like what you can run an 800 in. The same is like for 300s off 90 seconds for a 15, like trying to do like 12 to 15, like 3 times race distance, keeping that same rest. And yeah, so just different things like that. We'll also add sometimes like kickers or fast reps at the end, and so kind of comparing like an all out 300 or an all out 4 off of like a similar VO2 session. We do a lot of speed work on Mondays, and so comparing flying 30s, standing 40s, 50s, 60s, and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, when you're building those sessions, building a training plan, when you and Justin are you building that training plan, how do you kind of manifest progressive overload? Are you increasing reps, increasing pace, increasing reps, decreasing rest? What variables are you tweaking to overload?
I would definitely say this is where like Justin is the program. Like this is where I feel like he's the best. And so like I try and execute the workouts like the best that I can, and my dad advises like when Justin sends the program, and sometimes Justin will ask me like what I think, and I'll offer my advice, but ultimately it's Justin who's in charge of progressive overload and trying to like track, because he's just as if not more obsessive like about tracking the times and distances as I am. So sometimes like this was more last year, but he'll like say, oh, I did this workout like back in 2000 in Santa Monica, like with like with like Noah Nagini, and it was like that just kind of blows my mind. And he'll like pull out this notebook where he like wrote it down. So I don't know, but my point is that he's super obsessive, and he's been around a lot of people, and so that's all his domain.
Yeah, I mean, how helpful is it to be surrounded by guys like Justin and the people in your family, like being surrounded by a lot of people that are just so invested in your career and so invested in track?
Yeah, it's tremendously motivating. Like I would say like that's part of like for racing for me is to try and like honor that, like the fact of how much I've been given. I feel like kind of with all that comes a great responsibility as well. And so I try and honor my support system, honor my faith. And so like those are my 2 biggest drives.
I mean, like on that note, did you ever feel like pressure in some of the early years, like knowing how much your family put into you, like seeing like your dad built the track, just seeing how much support you've gotten? Like, did that put any pressure on you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it can definitely feel like pressure, but I also put a lot of pressure on myself. Like I'm a competitor, like at heart, and so but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what is your relationship like with your father? With how much he's put into your career.
Yeah, I mean, obviously my mom has put in a lot as well. So, but yeah, so my relationship with my parents, I would say, is collaborative. Like they support me, love me unconditionally, and I try and honor them in my efforts. So yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that recent meet. I forget what it was called. It's Hoey Farms Classic, or the one where you paced your brother to. I think it was a 144. I mean, tell me about that experience.
Yeah, so we've actually had a meet at the farm pretty much every year for like the last 3 years. And so it's kind of just like a fun thing. And always a couple like more people end up signing up than we think. Like it really is like we don't really tell anyone about it, but people find it online and they sign up and they show up. So it's kind of a fun thing. But so Jonah traveled to Europe. He and Jackson came, and so did my mom. So our whole family did, and they did some races over there. And like Jonah was feeling, and Jackson were both feeling a little disappointed with some of their efforts, and so it was just like, hey, how about we do basically a time trial? And it was like an opportunity for me to kind of to pace them. They've been pacing me a lot, so So yeah, it was kind of a low key thing, but like we reached out to USATF Mid Atlantic like to verify the whole thing just to make sure like that the time would count for USA's, and so the starter came out and they had a table set up, which was kind of fun, and yeah, so and I paced like the goal was to go through like 116.5 to 117 flat. I think I was like 50.3. And John was a bit off that. He was probably like 50.6. And so it was like 20 or 116.5 off 50.3. Yeah. And I kind of like went around most of the bend too, like just to try and slingshot him through. There were some Atlanta Track Club guys in the race, Luciano Fiore and Clay Pender. And so like the goal was kind of just sit in the line and have a bunch of people run fast if possible. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, Luce ran a season best, and obviously Jonah got the time. And unfortunately, Jackson ended up not feeling great that day, so he DNF'd. But yeah, so yeah, it was just kind of a low key thing. I did another workout rep after that just to kind of complete the day for me. But yeah.
I mean, that's got to be, a meet like no other. I mean, what's the atmosphere like there for something like you said, just so low key, but with a lot of really good guys there.
There's kind of like an eerie peacefulness about it, if I'm honest, because you're like really trying to gear up for this like huge effort, and there's like just like you're hearing mostly the wind. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean that brings us to now. I mean, how are you feeling after that effort, after that 600 and that workout there? Like how are you feeling after that? Now going into USA's.
Yeah, good. I did like a 1500 workout that Saturday, and then kind of came back and did an 800 specific workout, and kind of got my tail kicked a little bit. But yeah, so it was a tough training week, and I feel like we've done a lot going into USA. So it's hard to have any regrets at this point. Like you just kind of gotta race.
Yeah, and I think we'll end it with this. I mean, what would it mean to you to be a USATF outdoor champion?
It would mean a lot. Like I said, it's always a blessing to be able to give back to the people that believe in me, that cheer for me, and yeah, I'd like to keep pushing towards new heights. And so like this is the next major challenge for us, and so it's time to go give it my best.
Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, is there anything I didn't ask that you wanted to touch on?
I think I'm all good. Thanks for the discussion.
Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping on the show. This is another episode of DyeStat Discussions with Josh Hoey.